All right, what this needs now is love, sweet love. What's up guys, welcome back. It's a try to get ready with me for a Friday where we are just trying to sort the chaos and honestly probably just get weird. I've got really fun things to play with today. Mainly, I want to play with these, the Depixym pigments. I was gonna do an entire video dedicated just to these and mixing all of my own shades of makeup and everything. And then when I got them in my hands, I was like, I am not going to master this formula anytime soon. And that just would not be a particularly useful video. It would probably just be me mumbling to myself a lot, editing out tons of dead air, and not ending up with a particularly pretty face of makeup. And we'll get into why, but the thing that I have found these really useful for is long wearing makeup. When you want certain parts of your makeup routine to be matte, high impact, and long wearing, that is what they do. So I'm gonna try and exercise a little restraint today and do some contrast between the coverage level, right? You know, making something really like pretty and dewy and a little bit minimal, and then really focusing on like a bright eyeliner look like I've been doing on my Instagram lately. I will decide in a moment what color it's going to be, but I also went on my Instagram and I asked you guys for questions because I always do that for my get readies with me's. And you guys, once again, have not disappointed. I've already glanced at the questions and they're weird and I'm really excited about it. So let's go ahead and jump in. So the dress is Claire Vivier. In case you're wondering, no, I can't be stopped. Wow, okay, so I've got my SPF on already, and so we're just going to jump right into some foundation. Today we're gonna use the Rose Inc Skin Enhanced Luminous Tinted Serum, mainly because I think I've used it in like one video, and I just want to get some more use out of it. It is super low pigment, and it's got that funky micro encapsulation suspension thing that looks like a broken cream sauce. And then you mix it together and then you put it on your face or whatever. Put it wherever you want. Y'all, the last couple of days have taken 2-hour naps, Monday and Tuesday, because A, I'm really tired just from the weekend, but B, I am like, outside of any temporal context, existentially very exhausted. It almost is important to say it just in case someone's watching this back at a later date, but let us place our landmark right now on the fact that Roe v. Wade got overturned yesterday, so that is really setting the tone for everything that I see online right now. It really eclipsed the Met Gala in terms of like what people were talking about. This is a place where I come for, by the way, I'm gonna do this while I'm filming, so that it's not like touching my face the whole time. It is a very standy-uppy collar. In times like these, I find it important to point out that we come to this space to escape a little bit, and that there is no guilt in coming someplace to escape a little bit. It doesn't make you a coward or something to just need a break. And so that is why I'm not going to like deep dive on any of those topics. I'm sure you're getting enough of them as it is. So let's hop in with a question, shall we? F, marry, kill. Paul Ryan, Homer Simpson, John Mayer? I think they meant John Mayer. It says John Mayer, but I'm gonna assume you meant John Mayer. I just like want to know you better to understand how you knew how to construct such a difficult question for me. Not because I like any of those people or cartoon characters, but because they're all kind of deplorable in their own ways, aren't they? So if you have not listened to the deep dive that You're Wrong About did on Jessica Simpson's autobiography, it will make you see John Mayer in a whole new light. Like if you thought he was a douchebag before, oh, you have no idea. So yeah, I would put the world out of its misery on John Mayer, probably marry Homer Simpson. Yeah. And oh boy, that leaves that, doesn't it? He's got too many ideas about what my body's supposed to do in the first place, so maybe I switch it with John Mayer. That is really taking, oh boy. You You should be some kind of hostage negotiator. That is an incredible question. I'm just gonna let it be a compliment for you. Oh, Rachel. Go check out Rachel's channel. I will link it below. If Stanley Tucci came over to cook you one dish with a cocktail, what's the menu? See, Rachel understands how to mentally escape. So on Sunday, Stanley Tucci, Searching for Italy, returned. A glimmer of hope in this bleak, bleak universe. Why? It's so bright that I feel like I can't see. Is that better? Okay, hi, hello. Stanley Tucci came back and we had our Sunday shows that went to streaming, that we had the choice whether to watch the new Stanley Tucci episode or This Week Tonight with John Oliver. I was like, that's easy. Pour me a glass of wine, I'm hanging out with Tooch. The menu, I think that I would have like cacio e pepe, just something super, super like simple. Yeah, it would be a pasta dish. It would have lots and lots of cheese in it. The squid ink pasta, that looked pretty bomb too. But I would want that man to make me a Negroni. Not even him to make me a Negroni, because Negronis are not particularly like difficult science. They're just equal parts of three things. But I still would want to have a Negroni with Stanley Tucci. That would be the menu. And, you know, Felicity's invited. His kids are invited. Like, I would want it to be a family thing. I think it would be so much fun. Yikes, y'all. I should have like started with something more hydrating on my skin. It looks really, really dry. Again, man, the period. The hormones just go. And ever since I had a kid, my period now feels like I'm pregnant. Again, like all the same symptoms from pregnancy are now my period symptoms. So the other day when I was taking a nap, I started to feel the same nausea and like that odd metallic taste that you get in your mouth like throughout your entire first trimester. I forgot what that was like until it washed back over me and I was like, oh, ew. It's like I can taste like gluten-free bagels with cream cheese all over again, because that was like the only thing I ate was like bread and cream cheese, just to like try and eat something, because it was like, you're so nauseous, but you're so hungry and you have to eat even though you're trapped inside this like incredibly nauseous body. Oh yeah, and that happened, and then tons of salivating. It's a lot of fun. My eyes get really, really prickly. Like I had such bad, like weird, dry, irritated eyes and sinus issues and stuff while I was pregnant, and all of that comes back in a way that it never did before I actually was pregnant. So super, super weird. Yeah, I'm not sure that those two things really went together. Let's use some of that Milk Makeup highlighter that I love so much. So yeah, this is the Bionic Glow, and I just raved about this in my big deep dive on Milk the other day. Hopefully it does what I expect it to do, otherwise I'm gonna look like a fool here. But I mean, I'm dispensing quite a bit of it, and I wanna get a really, really nice like finish on my skin. Something that looks a little healthier and more hydrated. It's so cooling and like gel texture. It's a little bit blushy. I really could put this on like my whole face. It kind of could replace the In Beauty face glaze for me, just in the sense of the effect that it gives on the skin. And it'll dry down. That's the best part about it, is that it doesn't just like stay mucky like that, but it will keep the same finish. Somebody just told me that there's a TikTok account where someone reads Sesame Street themed tarot cards, which is like the confluence of like my interests and Simon's interests right now, so I'm gonna have to check that out. But Simon finally has deviated from Go Dog Go, and now he requests Melmo, which is Elmo, which is Sesame Street. And that's a very recent addition. I like this question. At what age did you look at Simon as a toddler versus a baby, or do you see him as both? We always refer to him as the baby. Talking about the dog, like, oh, he woke the baby up, stuff like that. So I think that they become a toddler when they start toddling, and not just like walking, and they call it cruising, holding on to things and pulling themselves up and kind of moving around. It's when he finishes his milk in the morning, hops up, slides off the bed, goes into the bathroom, opens the cabinets, and starts bringing us things and asking about them. And by asking about them, I just mean he just goes, or like go, or do, or whatever. He only has like two word strings at this point. which is fun. But for me, it's when they become this other, like a person, you know what I mean? They're like actually wandering around doing person things. And he has his own habits. He has his own processes and stuff like that. And man, lately, ooh, we are now in meltdown territory, which is so funny. I did not think it was gonna be so obvious, the difference between actually upset and throwing a fit. Throwing a fit is so funny. He'll just be standing there and he'll go, ah, and then you like change the subject and he goes, ah, and just like walks away. It's like, oh, okay. Like that anyone could have told you that that was phony baloney. And he does it when he goes to bed now. He does it when he just doesn't get what he wants. I mean, it's so easy to see it coming because like his whole face contorts and you see him summoning a fit. And it's completely different from tears running down his face. So either way, I really think that like toddlerhood is when they're truly like walking around, toddling, making decisions on their own, doing things that you're like, stop doing that. That's the mark of a toddler to me. Ooh, you know, I haven't used this on camera yet. This is the Natasha Denona Puff Paint in the shade Berry, I think is what it's called. They don't put the shades on here, but I think that's what this one's called. And I haven't gotten to use this on camera yet because it does kind of take over, and so I want to be really careful with it. Okay, okay, calm down. Like nobody's having it today. Certainly not me. Oh, wow. 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 That's so pretty, wow. The puff paints are just fantastic and I love them. Someone asked, do you still struggle with picking? Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, for sure I do. It's definitely something that kind of like my ED, you know, it's always gonna be there. And I think that one of the healthiest things you can do for stuff like that is get to know your monster. When you pull it out of the shadows and it no longer has a hold on you in terms of shame, then it's much easier to face it. And it's much easier to resist and say no. But I do definitely have my moments. And I have kind of the ways of channeling it too when I have like a negative moment, almost like an attack, you know, where I'm like, ooh, you know what I wanna do? I wanna pick right now. I will go watch Dr. Pimple Popper, and I have certain videos. If you're not familiar with Dr. Sandra Lee, she has her show on TLC, but her YouTube channel is still there, and you can just like, it's mainly when she like just does a series of blackheads, and it's not the ones where she like cuts things open and stuff like that. Like that doesn't really do anything for me, but it's super satisfying to just watch blackheads leave someone's face, and I'm just like, I can watch the same video over and over and over again, and it just like lets the moment pass for me. So that's huge. Huge, huge, huge. And then also just finding a method that works in treating it, and then knowing that there is a process going on where I'm like in the middle of a project of fixing something. You know, I'm like actually making a difference with the products I'm using, and I know that they are working over time, that I don't want to disrupt that. You know, like with my back and my chest and stuff, I'm like, okay, do I want to pick this one thing in this one moment and set myself back however many days it's gonna take for that to heal and maybe make me pick more because I'm like, oh, well, I already did that. Or do I wanna just trust the process? And a lot of times it's like with the expense that I've sunk into it a lot of times, and just trying to remember how much it felt like crap to, you know, go back into the picking habit. A lot of times I can stop myself, but we all have our days. Be kind to yourself. Did I miss your review of the Jones Road Foundation? Been waiting to order until your review. No, that's gonna be Monday. Can you do a video on Clé de Peau? I absolutely can. Do you guys want that? They just have a very limited shade range in my experience, and so I just like didn't necessarily wanna go for that. I can't remember, maybe it was that I couldn't find my shade, but it's very, very expensive. If you guys are interested in that, I'll absolutely do it. Why don't you ever answer my questions? I just want you to notice me. Notice me! That was Amanda. I love you, Amanda. Amanda. Okay, let's do some eyeshadow, and I want to talk about how Amanda is actually secretly the funniest person alive. I am not going to show any of these things, but I have a collection on my phone of screenshots of the selfies that Amanda sends me because they are almost always no context and they're always hilarious. I have turned them into reaction memes. On her birthday, I just bombed her with all of them. Let me tell you, the sense of humor on that girl is subtle. It is subtle and it'll sneak up on you, and she is very, very funny. Oh, the Aries energy. It comes out in different ways for different people. So I'm using the Chantecaille Mermaid eyeshadow here, and this is in the shade Starfish. I've had this for a while, but the reason I'm pulling it out is because I'm also going to be using Pangolin today, and it is like the shimmery version of this. And you know, I think I planned on doing an entire video that was just a bunch of different stuff from Chantecaille, but I actually laughed out loud when I received these in the mail because this was the blush, and it's the same amount of product as the eyeshadow. Not that like, the eyeshadow was actually more expensive, but it was more like expectation versus reality. Like I saw these pictures of this beautiful pan of blush with this butterfly embossed in the top of it and everything, and man, when I opened it, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so small. It's like hilariously small. Like there was just something so hilarious to me about how I expected it to be like the size, for whatever reason, of like, you know, a regular compact. And it just is hilariously, absurdly tiny. And the butterfly that is like sparkly, it brushes off instantly. It's just a little spray over. So that's what that looks like. We might use that today. I don't know. I don't know. I have been doing kind of this one and done thing with my eyes lately, where instead of doing like starting on the lid and then spreading it all out, because that's kind of where I get myself into a situation where I feel like I have to put eyeshadow all over my eye, because I like to concentrate my effort on this outer corner for shadow purposes and for like, you know, building an illusion. Well, the key actually is to start there and then don't put product on my lid or as much product on my lid. And then I really can leave that blank space and decide later what I want to do with it, but I can still get the same effect. You know, I can still get that really, really nice illusion that my eyes are farther apart and larger. And I don't know why it didn't occur to me sooner. It's almost like if you were editing a picture and you just like upped the brightness or the contrast so much. The same way that like when we were seeing kids back in the early 2000s and we would just blow the contrast out on our photos so hard that you like couldn't even see our noses. It's kind of like that, except upping the contrast to the point that you lose detail and you would actually see only this part of your eyeshadow, you know? And it would still have the same effect. And I really just dipped my brush once or twice on each side, and I'm just using what was left there and blending it out. I do really, really like this formula. I'm not gonna say that like every Chantecaille product is worth the money, but I do think that like this is really, really pretty. So something that I feel like lends itself really well to using these Depixym pigments is keeping it really, really simple on the rest of your eye. So I like to use nudes or tonal values, things that kind of, when they're all together, there's not a ton of contrast with them. So, you know, using browns or purples or pinks or even like an orange or something like that, but kind of staying in the same color family once you decide what you're gonna use. And the neon eyeliner doesn't look too busy, basically. So this is Pangolin. And when I saw this, I really thought it was gonna be like those Dior singles where it's just that like buttery, gorgeous, creamy almost eyeshadow. And it's just not. It's a little bit more like prone to fallout and it's a little bit more sheer. It's very, very pretty, but it's just not what I expected. And I do wanna like tap my finger off first. So. They have these in a ton of different colors. All the Chantecaille formulas, I feel like, come in like a gray, a taupe, a deep kind of mauvey purple, an olive, maybe like one, like a copper or a gold or something. And they follow the same dispersion, right? There's like that for the mermaid eyeshadows, there's that for these pangolin, elephant, whatever eyeshadows, just different textures. And so they do pair really nicely. You know, this goes well, and I expected it to, with Starfish. So it has a pink shift on it, which I think is pretty cool. And it's a little more subtle. Subtle for a glitter, not subtle for a Chantecaille product. Chantecaille products tend to be pretty subtle. And then I haven't even swatched this blush. I've applied it, but I haven't just seen what a swatch looks like of it. I wonder it's close enough to my skin tone that I can use that in this eye look. I think that I will. That's it right there. It's like the same color as my fingernail polish. So in case anybody's wondering, you know, I always talk about these BK brushes. There is a 10% off coupon down below for the BK brushes, and that includes, I want to say, the E&G Hot and Flashy set that I've been loving lately. It's all these very, very different shaped brushes than I had in my collection before. Yeah, I mean, that's not exactly what I was going for. What would I do if it were just me by myself? I would probably go Kosas powder here and just give a little bit more blur in here. Make it look like there's actually less product. I'm just not interested in taking the focus away from where that eyeliner is gonna be. But I am gonna do a little bit underneath my eyes just because I feel like that's kind of the whole effect here is, again, focusing where I would typically put shadow on the outer corner. Let's ask another question. If your fingers were drink fountains, what's on tap? God bless you. I guess that means that there are, let's say 8. Because fingers versus thumbs. I don't want to tire you guys out here. Let's start from the morning. We're gonna go coffee first. It would be coffee with a little bit of cream, no sugar, maybe even, ooh, no, lavender latte. Lavender latte would be on one finger. The next would probably just be straight up whole milk because I'm a big fan of whole milk and so is my son, and that would make things really, really easy. Then I would probably have smoothie. You know, it would really make my life easier. But let's get into the drink options, right? The cocktail options. We would have a sparkling brew rosé, probably a cremant of some persuasion, something with tiny, tiny bubbles. And it would have to be biodynamic, pink, very, very cold. I would also like one of them to be, where are we at right now? That's 4. So I got 4 more left. An extremely cold dirty martini, very cold, very dirty vodka martini, and then a Negroni, then a spicy margarita, and finally an Aperol Spritz. And I think that that would have me covered, not just for myself, but really any party. That sounds fun. This is coming together. The one thing about Chantecaille that I really appreciate, the only thing, just kidding. One of the things that I really appreciate about Chantecaille is that everything's really smoothing. And the glitter, obviously glitter can't be that smoothing. But this looks like a cream when it goes on, no matter how little you put on. Just spreads really evenly. So I'm working to build this illusion because once I get that eyeliner on, there's no fixing this, you know? Oh man, wait till you guys see this stuff. It's very, very interesting. Shall we go ahead and mix some Depixym pigment? What color should we do? I've done blue on my Instagram and I've done yellow on my Instagram. Should we do pink? Because it will go with the pink shift? Or is it like really, really light blue? I think it's really, really light blue. Each one of the pigments comes with a little palette like this, and I thought that it was going to be something where you could conserve your product and actually, like, you know, keep a mix that you made, but they dry down completely, like acrylic paint. It's a little worrisome. But I got the 4 main shades, which are red, yellow, blue, and white. Actually, sorry, and the black. I don't know where the black one is currently, but I'm not gonna use it anyway. So yeah, I have here white, red, blue, and yellow. And I ordered these on Look Fantastic because the actual Depixym website was out. And then I went ahead and ordered this one. By the way, these are called cosmetic emulsions. They're ultimate performance cosmetic emulsions, and they are basically a color. That's just what they are. They're just this really, really richly pigmented. It's almost like using an oil paint or an acrylic paint, and that's literally what this looks like, right? I went ahead and got this shade specifically because it is this like beautiful mucky mauve, right? It doesn't look like it on there, but if you look here, it's got a lot more blue in it than you would think. So that has been a color that I could use straight from the tube on my lips and stuff like that. Maybe we go tonal. No, I'm afraid that's gonna really distort things. Like this could be something that I use as an eyeliner today, but like it would be low contrast to the point that you almost like would lose the effect of it being a graphic focal point. So this is beautiful. The sticking point though, and it's the thing that I think if I'd done a fully dedicated video only on the Depixym pigments, it would have been the takeaway. It would have been my final thoughts, the overarching thesis. And that is, I thought they were going to be like the Salt New York pigments, and they could not be more different from the Salt New York pigments. The Salt New York lip and cheek and all that stuff, like they are really, really balmy and beautiful and supposed to look like whispers of color on the skin, and you can just layer them to your heart's content, and they always keep this really, really fantastic skin-like finish on them. It doesn't make them particularly super, super long wearing, but that's never been the claim. They're supposed to look very natural. These are paints. And if you try and mix, because this is what I initially saw this on, was on TikTok. Someone sent me a video on TikTok of a girl doing her entire face of makeup with them and like mixing her own foundation and everything. And I tried to do that. It was so painstaking, so hard to do. Like, I think I know color theory pretty well, but I don't know how to mix cosmetics. And making a skin tone is incredibly subtle. It's so subtle, it's so hard. And it was just really, really difficult for me. I didn't get a face of makeup that I totally loved, and these are so high coverage. I don't have a mixing medium that I would absolutely love to use as the base for the pigment, and it would probably be so little pigment to the base anyway that it wouldn't really matter. It would basically look like a skin tint. And so these are meant to be really, really long wearing. I feel like the use case for them, for that face of makeup on TikTok, sure, she did like this full beat, you know, totally fine. It probably looked a little wild in person because they dry pretty matte and they dry pretty like painty, cakey looking. I think that that lends itself best to like a very long wearing lip liner. You can get a extremely long wearing lip liner out of this, or long wearing lip color. Freckles, drawing freckles on your face, or like doing any kind of actual artistic painting on your face. Absolutely. And then, you know, euphoria makeup, basically. Like the eyeliners and like drawing certain, like using a small brush and really, really making detail that you want to stick. It's gonna wear all day. So that's what I found to be the most ideal use case for this. That and maybe as an adjuster, but understand that if you are using these as adjusters in any formula, they're going to make them more opaque and more long wearing and probably more matte. I wish that they made like a dewy version of all of them. They should, that would be neat. Anyway, let's mix a really, really nice bespoke robin's egg blue. They also come with little spatulas. Do I have any of those around? I don't think that I do. So I'm just gonna use the butt end of the brush that I've been using to apply these, which is this little bad boy. Ooh, if you ever want some really, really good like precision liner, this is a great little brush. I'm not gonna say it's foolproof because it's still, there's plenty of bristles there. You know, you can get yourself in trouble, but this is the bent liner brush, the B12 from Sigma, and it's great because it's like putting a little bit of distance between you and your eye so you don't have to be like this, you know? You see how you can like really see what you're doing when you have a brush that's bent like that? So you can see I used the butt end of this to mix last time. We're gonna do it again. This blue is already a really, really pretty color. We're not talking about something that I'm going to have to doctor too much to get to where I'm going. You know, it's already a color that I want to use on its own. And then I'm just gonna take a little bit of the white, put that right down next to it. I'm using almost equal parts. We'll see if that makes a light enough blue for what I'm going for here. So that's what they look like. You know, I could have gone Hannah Louise Poston and done like an overhead shot, but me. That's still pretty deep. I want more white. The beauty of this though is no matter what color you use, it does have the opacity to it that it's gonna show up. None of these is clear, you know? They're not translucent. You can paint these directly on the skin and they look like paint. There we go. We're getting like a October sky kind of color. They say don't get this on, oh God, don't get it on your phone. Don't get this on fabric, don't get this in your mouth. Like, you know, yes, you can put it on your lips, just don't eat it kind of thing. I don't know if, I assume it's non-toxic, but it's definitely like when it dries down, it is not screwing around. Like I got a little bit of it on my computer and I haven't scraped it off yet and it really just behaves like acrylic paint. All right, here we go. They don't look the same. It's okay. The beauty of these though is like until they do dry, pretty easy to wipe them off. Like you can very much like adjust as you go. But you do want to make sure that you get this out of the brush as soon as you're done, otherwise it's gonna like freeze to the brush and your brush will be ruined. So very much like any true art supply. They're not even sisters. Now you see why I never do liquid eyeliner. I'm semi-satisfied with that. And then once that first layer dries, there's still plenty of time on this in the pan to go in and put another layer on for maximum color impact, you know? And then you can see it from space. So, you know, I'll just leave this like this. I think eventually I could scrape them out, but one comes with every single one of them, like I said, and you know, I'll just wipe that off on a brush and then I'll use something like my brush bath and because it's got oil in it and that's gonna kind of clean the brush so that it doesn't get all frozen like that. Okay, I'm gonna throw on some brow gel here. I'm just gonna use that Kush from Milk. And in order to get more impact without applying a pencil, I brush them down first so that I get all of the hairs coated basically. It's a little more control. Kind of like you would with a glue stick doing drag makeup. And I'll let the first coat dry and go in with the second coat afterwards. But now we can make some decisions around like the rest of my face and stuff before I do mascara and everything. And perhaps answer another question. When are you gonna finally make some fashion videos? Your style is bomb, bomb, bomb. Thank you. I'm gonna use a little bit of my Natasha Denona here. That is so nice of you to say. I don't really know what a fashion video would look like. And also delving into fashion as a content creator, aside from just like touching on it, right, is a little bit difficult because you do end up then having to straddle a lot of lines having to do with size inclusivity and sustainability, and the fact that the two rarely coexist. Also price inclusivity, access. The world is always changing in that respect, and I do feel like the people who do venture out into that space, people like Carrie Dayton, for example, who I love very much and watch pretty much every one of her videos, she has to really keep a finger on the pulse of that conversation in order to make sure that her content is like very, very relevant, but also sensitive to her viewing audience, you know, within reason. You don't want to let people bully you, but at the same time, I feel like she does a really, really good job of it. And that requires a ton of dedication that requires a lot of time. And I think that a lot of people kind of don't think that. They think that because this content is fun to make, like time isn't something that you really take as much into consideration, but you have to kind of belong to an entire world online in order to stay abreast of that conversation and stay sensitive to the intricacies of it and kind of the language to use around it and everything. And it just requires more work. And I only have so many hours in the day. It's not just about buying outfits and putting on outfits. If you want to actually make fashion related content, you have to be like sensitive to your audience in a way that you don't necessarily have to when you're just kind of like linking your dress down below, you know? I think we need bronzer. Let's go with the Bionic bronzer. But thank you, I do appreciate it. And I try to illuminate where things are from when I can, you know? Like I said, this is from Claire Vivier. And I do pay a lot for my clothes. I like my money where I can see it in my closet. It's just what makes me happy. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of the Item concealer, I think, here. Although, man, I can't wait to show you guys the one from Jones Road. It's not new, but that little pencil, she's neat. I really wish I could find that Angie Hot and Flashy little concealer blender brush, because that thing is BA. There it is. All right, bye. So this is the A506, your fashion icon. Wow. I always love to talk about that. Currently, I'm really into like the whole Gucci aesthetic, and so I really like everybody that Gucci likes. You know, I love Alessandro Michele, obviously, and then Harry Styles, huge, 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 huge. I just love seeing what he does because he really has such a unique energy about him. And it's not so much that I want to look like Harry Styles, although I do. It's about, you know, wanting to channel that sense of individuality and like be as truly authentic to myself as he is to himself, kind of thing. And you know, I've said this before, but like one of my favorite quotes in an interview was when he said that like one of his style icons was Shania Twain, and I was like, I'm listening, Harry. Like, I love when people just transcend expectation like that. It's so awesome. Tracee Ellis Ross, she's like the only thing on my Pinterest boards. And Tracee Ellis Ross's outfits are always just my favorite, favorite, favorite. And she just has such a vibe and such an energy, and she just owns herself in such an incredible way. Other than that, IDK. Let's do some blush. Let's do some more blush. What color blush? I think we go Dior Backstage Rosy Glow. Really pulls it together. Where is that? Yes. This milk setting mist. It's great. What the actual is going on with the vibe? I feel like I'm going absolutely psycho. The vibes are off, dude. The vibes are off. Like George Carlin at one point, he said like everybody's worried about like conservation, and I don't remember exactly what the quote was, but he said everybody's so worried about Earth, like saving Earth. He's like, Earth has lived long before us and it's going to live long after us. At one point it's just going to shake us off like a bad case of fleas. And I kind of wonder if that's not happening in more of like an existential way or like a metaphorical way right now. The way that we just can't seem to help ourselves. And we are being forced to jump the shark in so many ways that we actually cannot we cannot cling. We cannot attach ourselves to anything. We just have to become these floating, untethered cats in order to survive, because we have clung to ideas that we feel like because they predated us, then they must be concrete and everlasting. And what we're realizing is that just because something predates us doesn't mean that it wasn't just created by someone at a certain point. And it made sense at that time, but just like a defense mechanism under duress in childhood trauma, maybe it's not serving us so well anymore, kind of thing. So, and that is not the case with Roe v. Wade. I don't mean to allude to that. I don't think that that wasn't serving us anymore. But yeah. I think that we're kind of being forced to detach in a lot of ways. And I don't mean detach from society, well, maybe I do mean that. I think that we're basically being forced to recognize that no one has ever really valued, this is bleak, our individual needs. That's always been an effort to build talking about America especially, a society that has certain instincts or inborn motivations, not even necessarily preternatural instincts, that we think were our idea and we think are for the better mutual good, but are actually part of a larger system that benefits the people who have all the money. And that all of the things that we think we're voting on, morals and whatnot, it really, all that it matters to anybody is money. That's all. That's it. It's bleak, but it's true. It's bleak, but it's true. And yeah, the vibes are very, very off. Where is my mascara? Look at that. Look at the contrast of eyelashes with mascara on them against that blue. And, you know, does it make me want to take the eyeshadow all the way to pink? Yeah, it does. But I think that that will kind of distort the concept here, which is subtle, 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 and then just blue. I think we shall draw freckles, though, with the Depixym pigments and just see what we can do. And I just had an idea. I want to take the, like, already pre-mixed mauvey shade, and I'm just going to put that on the center right here, and we're gonna do kind of that sweet blotted doll lip. You know what I mean? Less is more with this stuff, guys, because you're gonna get that really nice fade. This is very like, is it K-Beauty or J-Beauty mainly that does this? I wanna say it's more Japanese. I could be wrong. That's not going anywhere. Look. She might be sticky, but she's very, very beautiful and I love her very much. And that is my trusty Juicy Tube. Here. All right, what this needs now is love, sweet love. We need Freckles. Down in Freckle Rock, down in Freckle Rock. So in order to make Freckles, we need brown. And in order to make brown, we need red, yellow, blue. Brown is 3 parts red, 2 parts yellow, and 1 part blue, typically when you're talking about hair color. But this blue pigment is really, 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 really strong. So I would say like a little teeny tidbit of blue. So I think kind of like that. Let's see what that does. So we still have something a little bit red here. So I think it needs to be a little bit more yellow. And I'm just gonna go to the back of my hand here. It's not quite right, but I can't really see what I'm doing. So do a touch more blue. Do you see what I mean though? Like this is a pain. You're kind of better off, like if you want these, using them as they are, or buying ones that are already the color that you're looking for, because mixing them like this is so freaking tedious. And then I do think I just want a touch of white in there to bring it up to more of a freckle color. And all I've really done is create a color that's extremely similar to my khaki lip liner, which is what I would use to draw freckles in a lot of cases anyway. So kind of like that. Messy, inefficient, such a pain, honestly, but all right. Going to try and make more of a pointed shape at the end of this brush and draw some freckles. But they're extremely manipulable and they will wear for a long time. That like, I'm not gonna use, you know? I know I am like really insufferable about like putting on more and more and more blush, but I do feel like I wanna put on just a little more. I'm gonna use the Milk Makeup one because I want to add like a skin finish back to my cheeks. I feel like they really look thirsty. Just pull a little bit of like an actual shimmer highlight. By the way, this is a phenomenal little replacement for my Extinct brush from Wayne Goss. This is the BK108. This is Soft and Gentle. A classic from MAC. It just gives, I mean, yes, that's going to be a glittery sheen for sure. Oh, I also got the Danessa Myricks, the new weird powder thing that she put out. It hasn't arrived yet, but I did buy that. And 3 more of the Colorfix foils because I've been obsessed with them lately. All right, let me move y'all out. For all my fussing, as usual, this is the vibe today. And you know, we'll go ahead and do a quick and dirty on all of the stuff that I put on my face as far as how I feel about it, if my feelings have changed, you know, over time and stuff. But the main thing here was those Depixym pigments, right? Starting with the rose ink, I still love this. I still find it hard sometimes to adjust my expectations to how low the pigment is, like how low the coverage actually is, but it ends up looking so natural. I like having low contrast sometimes because it just ends up with this very undone look. And if that's what you're going for, this is a great place to start. I always say the amount of pigment or the amount of coverage or the finish of the complexion product that you choose will more or less usually kind of decide for you the amount of full beat that you're gonna end up with, right? You know, and if you start with something this low coverage, Sure, you could travel all the way to the full beat world with your concealer and stuff if you wanted to, but it is probably going to more naturally lend itself to something like this where it's like freckles, 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 translucent, shiny, skin, skin, skin. And it's easier to get a look like that with that than it is, you know, something that starts off fuller coverage. I used like 800 blushes again, and I'm sorry, I'm still in love with all of those Milk Bionic everything. They are just so good. And when I saw that you can get the whole set for $70 on their website plus the 15% off introductory, you know, sign up for their email list kind of discount, this is a really good deal. And I really feel like everything that I put on my face was okay until I added one of these into the mix and it became great again. You know, I was like, oh, yep, those are the ones, those are the ones, those are the ones, especially when I'm going for a skin, skin, skin look like this. So yeah, all day long, all day long, all day long. I really like these. The Dior Rosy Glow, you guys know I lean on this because it's an amazing color adjuster and I think it did the job there, but I ended up covering it up anyway. I applied this with entirely the wrong brush. I used a very small brush with it and it could have gone very, very haywire and it only went minorly haywire. So I really love this stuff. I think it's beautiful, the Natasha Denona contour. Soft and gentle really did the trick, but it does have a little bit of coverage to it. So I did end up kind of putting a little more blush on top of it because I just didn't want to lose the consistency of my blush, but I really like it. And I feel like it adds a beautiful finish to the skin without kind of like disrupting everything underneath it too much. At least this time. Sometimes it does. Do I think that these Chantecaille eyeshadows are worth your time and money? No. They're really pretty, but you know what I mean? You can get this kind of thing in single shadows from plenty of companies, I'm sure, and also from palettes that you probably already have. Just a good mucky mauve, you know? Like in practical application, T Rose does something pretty similar, as does Bella. Whoa! From Vesca. Still loving the brow from Milk. And aside from, like, you know, the Juicy Tubes, which I still maintain are extremely sticky, but they're lovely. I really like them. And also the Milk Finishing Spray, which you can see gave just this really, really gorgeous, very, you know, better than natural glow. Let's talk about my final thoughts on the Depixym pigments. If I didn't go off hard enough already, I think these have a very specific use case for people who are doing their makeup on an everyday basis, who are not makeup artists, who are not constantly thinking about mixing bespoke colors for a specific group of makeup looks or a specific makeup look for a specific person, making it worth it to have something that's like this specific. Like, is it a cool thing that they exist? Absolutely. Is it worth the pain in the neck to think of this as a complexion product or a blush or a bronzer or a contour? Not at all. Not at all. It's going to leave a very, very matte finish on the skin. It's going to be a huge pain in the neck to get the nuance of the colors that you're looking for a complexion shade or a contour or something like that. And it doesn't keep. So once you've mixed it, you still have to mix it again the next time. Wow, that's annoying. I mean, I think that there was a cute experiment that she did on TikTok and it sold me on it, but for that use case, it's not practical. Now, what it is practical for is thinking of it as exactly what it is, which is a long wearing matte pigment, which lends itself beautifully to things like this. If you're gonna mix a very small amount of an exact color that you want to paint something onto your face, it's going to stick around. It's not going to betray you in terms of wear time, and it does stay wipeable, manipulable, whatever, for a little while until it dries down. I don't feel like it rushed me at all. I think that it really, really works for this, and for that reason, like, I would buy it for this reason, because having the option of any color of like graphic eyeliner or graphic color on your skin that you would ever want, if that's your thing, is more fun and more economical, I want to say, than buying individual eyeliners that are in those different colors, you know, because then you can like mix them and you can use them forever basically, instead of something from NYX that's like in one color and you might get sick of wearing that color and it's going to dry out soon or whatever. Like, I've had them, they're fine when they come in their own pots or their own tubes or whatever, but I personally think it's a lot of fun to have it just kind of open-ended of like, well, what do I want to do? I don't have to decide at the store. I can decide when I'm doing my makeup, kind of thing. And for people who are really interested in doing cool stuff like this, or even more like exciting things, they are blendable. So it's like you could take white and do like an inner corner and it will blur at the edges and it'll look awesome, especially like the higher contrast that it is, right? You know, you have deep skin and you put like white or like bright orange or bright yellow or something like that, and you can actually get a really nice blur out of it, and it'll wear all day and it will absolutely steal the show. That's what these are. They're paints, essentially. But I did get this really cool effect on my lips with it, but like you can see, that looks like poo. That looks like poo on my hand, okay? That looks like what everybody says that my name means in their language. They love chiming in my comments being like, in my country, your name means S word. And I'm like, thank you so much. I'm 35 and I had no idea. It has its very specific use cases. It has its very specific drawbacks. And if you saw that TikTok and you were like, oh my gosh, maybe I should throw all of my makeup out and only use these Depixym pigments, don't do it. That's not what they're for. I hope that this was fun for you guys to see this come together, you know, in action, especially because I feel like something like this is very intimidating. You're like, oh, if I don't do that perfectly, it's going to look really whack. This isn't perfect, and I think it looks bomb.com. Yeah, I hope you guys thought this was fun. I hope this at least gave you some place to escape to on a Friday. And if you did find this fun, valuable, enriching your life in any way, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, guys, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me today. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.